Hey, friend, it's so good to be here with you. I'm Charlene Shire, and in these next few episodes of the Becoming Home podcast, which is a project from fullyabundantlife.com, where you can find me talking about health, wealth, relationships, all kinds of things going on there. We've got a free guide on emotional processing and things like that. So run on over and check that out. Book a call if you need to. But the Becoming Home podcast is a project that I do with my daughter-in-law, Joellen, and you'll see her in a minute if you're watching on YouTube. If you're just listening, you'll be hearing her chime in. But through April and May, we've been talking about April showers, bringing May flowers, and just wanting to really rethink this idea of darkness. And what does it mean to be going through times of darkness? And do we need to be feeling bad? Like I used to always feel bad about feeling bad. In a heavy religious system, it was not, I didn't feel like I was allowed to feel bad. Like I wasn't fixing my eyes on Jesus. I wasn't being spiritual enough. I was stuck in some kind of sin or something like that. That's why I was feeling dark or something. And having come out of that, I'm learning so much more about what darkness really is, what these times of darkness can be, and how much light is actually in there that no one could ever show me before. And so we've taken April and May to unpack some of these ideas. And in April, Joellen and I shared quite a few very vulnerable, very personal, dark times that we have faced in the last just handful of years. And, those moments where it really feels like the shadows are closing in, but there's so much more that can be done in that time than just sitting and overeating, right? And not moving our bodies and getting depressed. These dark times can be super transformational if we let them. We just need to know how to get in there. We need to build up the skills and the tools to navigate through those dark times, plant solid seeds that are going to grow beauty in the time to come. Like the scripture says, there's weeping now, but there's beauty in the morning, or something like the joy in the morning. That's what it says. So this was a 2-hour long conversation that we've split up into 4 parts. We'll release a part each week throughout the month of May. And it will really just kind of talk you through and help you kind of identify some of those key tools and skills that we can use. But if you're wanting to kind of go back and hear more of the foundation of what we're talking about, I'd encourage you to go back to April's episodes. They are in order, same thing, long conversation that we broke up into parts. So you'll want to go back into April and start with part 1 and work your way forward. But we're all about holding space for real and vulnerable conversations. We're talking about mental health. We're talking about emotional health. We're talking about healing from trauma, embracing different generational perspectives, right? Because my generation dealt with things differently than today's generation does. And so Joe and I are trying to come together and hold space for one another, as she just married my son last year. So we're trying to hold space for each other, but we're also trying to hold space for other people who need help kind of navigating some of those dark times and some of that trauma. So if you are on your healing journey, looking for support, tools, you're in the right place. So stick around as we explore some of these things and figure out how to turn our darkness into daylight, one conversation at a time.
Yes, happy May.
Happy May. So we're here. So April, we talked about
darkness.
Dun dun dun. Yeah, just sad stuff, dark times, difficult emotions, how to process through some of those.
Is our ebook published?
Yeah, so
yeah, we got that out too in April.
Yeah, so one of the things that happened was, so in April we did more kind of an interview style where you talked about a situation or two that was really difficult and how you processed emotion, and then I did the same thing, and we talked about that little exercise to process emotions, and decided we would create a little ebook. So we did that, and that's available at fullyabundantlife.com. It's there. You just drop your email in and it'll come to you automatically. So that was a great little tool that came out of that. And I thought we could use a couple things from that to sort of help us in the May conversation about, so what are the benefits? What happens if what is like, you put it really well, like when we're planting seeds during this dark time, planting the seeds are like how you're processing your emotion. You're planting seeds, and what then grows in May from those seeds. So are we planting good seeds? Are we planting harmful seeds? We can do lots of stuff with that time. But hopefully we're doing productive things and putting in good stuff into our soil.
You'll notice the big difference depending on what kind of seeds you plant, and it's so hard, I think, to be intentional with the darkness of like it's really easy to just like lay in bed and rot all day. And sometimes that is appropriate depending on your situation. But, I think sometimes it can be important in those dark times in respect of it to really like, all right, I need to dig out my journal. I need to eat a meal today. Like those things are so important. So yeah, don't be afraid of doing the important things in the darkness. I'm so sorry.
Sorry, my cat is that my cat distracting you? Yeah. If you probably can't hear it fully in the background, but my cat is like, someone's ripping his limbs off is what it sounds like to us.
He's having a really great day. Okay. What was I saying? Okay, being intentional. Yes. Okay. Doing the things you're supposed to do, that your body needs, that you need, that, all the things, because you will reap the rewards, whether, super positive and like, oh, I'm so glad I ate that meal the other day because I'm not dropping weight and like blowing away in the wind because I haven't eaten in however long, or,
Yeah, I think that was that's cool that you mentioned that, because we did get into in the guide, some of like the five most common things that can trigger difficult emotions that may not even have been triggered otherwise. Like they may not even be a problem for you. They may be there, but they're not like super problematic if you don't trigger one of these 5 key areas. And so we got into that, and we got into sort of like, how to combat those 5 or 6, 4, 5, 6, something like that.
A few
key areas. And then, we got into some of the exercises of like, and I think it was really important to like give permission. Like if you need to lay in bed, you have permission to do that.
Absolutely.
Because like society will tell us, or if you spend any amount of time on social media, it's like, get your big girl pants on, hustle, be all things to all people, all the things. And so sometimes we just need permission to lay in bed. And like, what can we do while we're laying in bed? Maybe there's something positive I can do while I'm laying in bed. And so in the guide too, we get into, I think there's over like 100 different emotion words. So more than just, I feel mad, I feel sad, I feel happy, I feel depressed. Like, there's these 5 words that most of us use all the time, but sometimes they don't get to the real emotion. Like there's so much more that could be, or you could get into the root of the issue so much better if you had a different word for how you feel. And some of us just don't have a big enough vocabulary to get beyond mad, sad, happy, because in the doctor's office, all we ever saw was, the little happy, sad, or mad. That's all you get, So, so we put that in the guide, over 100 different emotional terms that you can use to kind of really pinpoint, yes, that's exactly what I feel. And then you can really dig into that a little bit more. And then we also got into like the body, where emotions tend to store in the body, and how if you tend to feel a particular thing in your body often, and like, why am I feeling that? Or why does my left big toe always hurt? It's not quite that specific, but but the guide gets into like different pains in the body, and the guide has affirmations in it. The guide has like exercises. I think more than between 5 and 10 different exercises of how to dig into your emotions, why, how to get in touch with them, how to discover your own voice. For a free little thing, it's actually pretty packed full of really great stuff.
I think it's a powerful little punch to that darkness.
Yeah, and I love that there's permission to sit in darkness and to recognize that there is light there. Darkness is not just this evil, separation, isolation, alone thing. Like, we don't have to criticize it. We don't have to criticize ourselves. We don't have to beat ourselves up for being in a dark place. It can be a very positive experience to sit and get to know ourselves in those places.
Absolutely.
But like you said, it's important what we're doing during those times, during those moments. If we're laying in bed all day, cool. What's something that you can do? Maybe pull out this guide and just look through all the different emotional words and ask yourself, you know, do I feel that? And just say the word out loud and see how it feels in your body. Like, get to know, like, ooh, does that resonate? Or like, does my stomach react to that? Or does that word make me cry? Just saying that word make me cry? Or, you know, just paying attention and becoming intentionally aware of emotions. Like, you can do that when you're laying in bed all day, and that's a very productive day. That's a productive seed to plant while you're able to just do nothing. I can't even get up and shower today, but I can pull up this guide on my phone and I can look at the emotion words and I can see which one hits, which one doesn't.
Yeah. And on the other side of that, when May comes around, when flowers are sprouting, you're going to experience, I think, just greater joy or greater light, I would say, in what you've experienced, because you've been able to go through and at least like giving your emotions a name gives them meaning, gives them, I wouldn't say power, like they're like holding power over you, but it gives them the power of like, oh, that's what's going on inside of me. I don't know. I feel like if you just let your emotions kind of sit and you're like, I don't know what I'm feeling, I just don't feel good.
Yeah.
By giving them names, like, if you want to, you can even talk to them. Like, hey, Shame, I get that you're sitting in here. I get that we're not feeling the greatest. I don't have a whole lot of energy to give to you today, but here's what I do have. On the other side of that, you're going to be able to, in the light, have these flowers come up of, oh, I know how to better identify my emotions. I know the names of 10 new emotions I didn't know I had. Now I know how to treat guilt in my life, and I know how I can kind of combat that emotion, because guilt isn't something that belongs in me. And here's why I learned in my dark times. Like, oof, that's crazy payoff right there, like, of the work that we're able to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you reminded me of something. Like, in the guide, we get into a little bit about like talking to the emotion or talking to the feeling and how to do that, and the importance of giving it a voice, giving it a space, giving it a place to exist. Because you know, we talked about in our little pre-conversation, our prep conversation, about like, okay, well, what is the difference between dealing with an emotion and stuffing an emotion or ignoring? And I was thinking about how when my kids were little, I remember hearing at church or like in circles that we need to deal with our emotions. But I had no idea what that meant. I was like, what does that mean? deal with your emotions. Like, what does that look like?
It sounds like some sort of punishment. Like, like, oh, we need to deal with your kid. Like, that's what people say with a misbehaving child.
Yeah.
You need to go deal with your kid right now. Like, oh.
And like, to me, that meant go whoop their ass. Like, if I can be honest,
so
like,
take my depression.
I mean, that is what it meant. Like, to me, go deal with your kid meant get them in line. Because they're acting out, they're being stupid, and that's your job as a parent to go fix that shiz, like that. And then maybe that's a generational thing, I don't know, but like, that's what that meant. And so turning that toward myself,
deal with your emotions,
deal with it, means
whoop its ass
and get it in line. Like, turn away from all that negative emotion, beat it up, and magically it's gonna be like, this is nice. Like, I'm as we're talking, I'm having all these revelations about parenting. I'm like, oh, no wonder that never worked. No wonder beating. I didn't beat my kids, but I did spank them. But like,
no wonder that didn't work.
No wonder that didn't work out so good. No wonder they're bitter and angry. No, I'm just kidding. They're not. They're great. They're amazing. Despite me.
Oh my gosh.
Despite us and our silliness. But anyways, like, so yeah, giving space to our difficult emotions, our depression, our sadness, the things that are on the shadow side. We hear that a lot nowadays, of like doing shadow work, or, there's how light and dark may be opposites of each other, but they are the same. They are two sides of the same coin, so to speak. And so they're in relationship together, and there's usually not one without the other. I mean, if you think about it, like, I have had a lot of people on social media say over this past month that, in perfect love drives out fear. So there is no darkness in the light. So like, fear and love were equated with dark and light, right? So when you're in God is love. Because love drives out fear, there's no fear in God. There's no darkness in God. So all these ideas, and like, I get what they're saying.
Yeah.
But like, for me anyways, they somehow coexist, and they somehow live in harmony. Because I did a little bit of research on, like, I don't know how, like you were saying, I think you made this comment earlier, I don't know how to relate to someone that doesn't have a religious background. So much of my background is so staunchly religious, and having been in a cult for so many years, that's the person I relate to. So that's really the person I can speak to, is like the person who's trying to rethink religion and spirituality and all the things. And so this is where I kind of land with this idea, is that dark and light have this relationship together that has no need to push the other away. Like, love has such power and security, and I don't want to use the word intentionality. Like, it's so pure, and it's so like, it's so not afraid. It's not afraid of fear, and so fear's allowed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there's space in love for fear to be there.
It's almost like love has the security to allow that space for fear. Because, I mean, for me, I don't feel like when I am in a main space of fear, I don't feel like I have as much room for love as when I am fully in love. I feel like I have more space to hold fear, even like partially my own fear, but even other people's fear of like, I can take on more of what other people are dealing with, and even more of like, okay, now I can process maybe the things that I'm going through. Which I think is this, I don't know, perspective on darkness of looking at it more through the lens of love rather than through the lens of, oh my gosh, it's fear, it's terrible, like, whoop its ass. Instead of looking at it like, I need to get this in line, more through the eyes of love of, all right, here we are. What are we going to do with it? What seeds can I plant? And what flowers am I going to look forward to in the future?
Yeah, I think, I feel like every one of our conversations comes back around to perspective. We always end up in this realm of perspective, like choose your perspective. And I feel like that really helped me, what you just said, because I was kind of picturing in my mind me sitting in two different locations. And if I sit down in this pile of dirt over here that has darkness perspective, and like I'm looking towards love, like if love is over here in this other part of my garden, but I'm sitting over here, I think what my experience is like just this, I picture it as like this covering of heavy. It feels heavy. It feels insecure. It feels lost. It feels hopeless. It feels like longing. Like if I'm looking over at love and I'm like, oh, there's sunshine over there. I just want to be over there. But I can't. It's like I feel stuck in this dirt. I don't know how to get over there. And so those are just kind of all the feelings that I associate with that. But if I can find a space to remind myself that I have the power to choose, that it's not an actual location, it's a choice in my mind on a perspective level. Or like it's a remembering. If I can remember somehow. And sometimes it takes me sitting in that dark place saying, Son of David, have mercy on me. I've been there lots of times. And just calling out like, hey, love over there, can you come over here and help me? And thankfully, love is a being that is more than happy to do that. And by the way, it's already there. It's just that we can't see it. And so that's, I think, the thing that is good to be reminded of is that, you know, also for us who are religious or spiritual or rethinking religion or re-navigating, rebuilding that for ourselves after abuse or trauma in that world. It's a beautiful thing when we can know that we are never separated from love. Like there's a few verses that I think we mentioned it already here, that Psalm 139 verse 8, that if I make my bed in the depth of hell, you're there. And then there's the New Testament one that says neither height nor depth nor width, or dark, whatever. And it says even like all the even bad things, angels or demons, like all the good, the bad, doesn't matter.
Can't separate you from
you from the love of God. So There's nothing in all this world or creation that can separate us from love. It's just a matter of our perspective and whether or not we can see that and whether or not we can invite that to be our experience. And that can be really challenging when you're dealing with capital T traumas.
Yeah.
Like abuses and divorces and things that are out of your control, especially. Thanks so much for joining us on the Becoming Home podcast. On behalf of Joe and myself, we want to thank you so much for investing your time here. Don't forget, you can head over to fullyabundantlife.com and grab more resources, grab a free guide on emotional processing tools. It's packed full of information over there. The guide has over 100 emotional words to help you identify exactly what you're feeling, more than just happy, mad, sad, grumpy, hungry, whatever. 100 words or more to help you really identify what's going on inside of you so that you can really process that better. Exercises to process. It's giving tons of information, somatic, where the emotion may be trapped in the body. There's loads of information in that guide, all for free. So fullyabundantlife.com, you'll see it right when you click on that website. And then if you need other information, I've got tons of stuff there for you to grab. So head on over there. Thank you again for being with us. We'll see you next time.